Sup, guys? It's Toad back again. I got my NFL video up. Did it late last night at 1 a.m. Thanks for the people who joined the stream on that one. I appreciate it. You can go check that out. That is up. It is the first NFL Sunday. Obviously, I got one play in the NFL on Sunday, which is on the Tennessee Titans +4, and I do have a Monday night play, New York Jets +4.5. So you can go see the analysis on those and some of the other football games in that video. This is the daily breakdown video, but because I do separate entire videos for football, the daily breakdown video is only baseball. And once baseball season is over, it's going to be like probably just focusing on like the primetime football games that are on and whatever. And might just be me ranting about my losses and whatever. We'll see how that goes. Similar to what I did last year for the most part. Baseball, I mean, I don't love this baseball card. This is the uninteresting show. The NFL show is where everything interesting happens. This is the boring stuff, the baseball, where you can find spots to try to make some money in baseball. There isn't a whole lot that I like on this baseball card, to be honest. Like, I was looking at Washington, Pittsburgh, like, just on the surface, to me, it looks like a pitching mismatch with Patrick Corbin against Jared Jones. You know I like Jared Jones better. Jones came off the DL or something and struggled in his first start back, but he had a better start in his second start back. I do think he is the better of the two pitchers in general, but Patrick Corbin has been pitching less horrendously recently, so it's not something I want to do. And you can see Pittsburgh is very popular, like 82% of the tickets and only 58% of the cash, down or up from -150 to -152, but the market looks to be signaling against Pittsburgh a bit, so it's not something I'm going to get involved in. There isn't really a whole lot of motivation there for either team either, I don't think. So I'm just skipping that. Colorado, Milwaukee, I actually would slightly lean to the under with Kyle Freeland against Freddie Peralta. That is down from 7.5 juice to the over to just 7.5. You can see the market signaling on the under here. 67% of the tickets on the over, but 62% of the cash on the under. Kyle Freeland, actually, even though he's not that good a pitcher, he has good career stats against the Milwaukee Brewers, and Freddie Peralta is a pretty good pitcher and has good numbers against Colorado's hitters as well. So I do lean to the under in that one. Baltimore, I think Baltimore is actually trying to avoid a sweep, if I'm not mistaken. I can bring that up and see. Because Baltimore, I mean, they should have a pretty big starting pitching mismatch in this game. Or no, they're not trying to avoid the sweep. They did lose yesterday, pretty ugly to Tampa, though. Baltimore is the team that really has something to play for. Tampa, I mean, I think they have to come to grips with the term that their season is over, even though they might be playing for pride still. Not pride as in Pride Month, but just actual, the real meaning of the word pride. But Baltimore, I mean, they're still battling for playoff positioning or whatever, and they have their ace on the mound, Corbin Burns. He had a rough stretch not too long ago, but he's seemingly bouncing back from that. Couple of bad starts there, but against Boston, Houston, not easy teams to face. He did face Tampa before that, though, so Tampa is recently familiar with him, but I don't know if Tampa really has the offensive weapons to be able to do that much damage against him, and he had his most recent start against the White Sox, which actually wasn't really that impressive of a start, but it could be maybe helping him get out of that rut that he was in. He did give up 6 runs in this game against the Dodgers, but that was a game. I was on Baltimore in that game. I remember Baltimore. It was all unearned runs, man. You could see there 5 unearned runs allowed in that game. The defense just completely let him down there, so it wasn't really him pitching that badly. Burns is still their ace, 3.19 ERA, 1.13 whip. And against Tampa, he basically dominates them. They're only 9 for 54 off in lifetime, 17-3 strikeout walk ratio, 167 average, and 507 OPS. So Burns, I mean, he is the better of these two pitchers. Zach Littell on the other side, not good stats, really. 4.04 ERA isn't that bad, but 1.35 whip is pretty ugly. He also did just face Baltimore recently. He actually did pretty well, only giving up 1 earned run in that game. But Baltimore is the better hitting team, and they're more recently familiar with him. And he doesn't have good numbers against Baltimore career-wise. In 83 at-bats, he's given up 5 home runs to them. 16-2 strikeout walk ratio is good. Littell always does have good strikeout walk numbers. He's just always way too hittable. And he's allowed a 337 average and 943 OPS to the Baltimore hitters. So I do think it's a huge pitching mismatch, but you're paying for it with Corbin Burns. up from minus 200 to minus 204 on the money line, and they're public. 89% of the tickets, but 95% of the cash. So in baseball, a lot of these heavy favorites will draw like the public action, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're actually the wrong side, especially basically just to win the game. But the money line is so high on that one that you'd have to turn it into like a run line play and lay the run line on Baltimore if you wanted to. And I wouldn't mind that. Like I said, I do think it is a mismatch pretty severely there. And then, my favorite thing I like to talk about, my starting pitching duel of the day, is Cleveland and the Dodgers. And that total seems a little bit high to me, man. It's up from 8.5 to 8.5 juice to the over. Haven't played this one. I don't think I'm playing it, but public is coming in on the over, 60%. They know both of these teams can hit, especially the Dodgers, but 59% of the cash coming in on the under, even though the total looks like it's moved up a little bit. I agree with the under on this, but I don't think it's strong enough to actually make a play on it because I do slightly worry about these offenses. But you're talking about some good pitchers on both sides here. Tanner Bibby, probably the best starter on Cleveland, up against Jack Flaherty, who's one of the top starters on the Dodgers, who have a few basically ace starters in their rotation. Tanner Bibby, he's been good all season, man. 3.56 ERA, 1.12 whip. He's been pitching pretty consistently. He had a couple of rough starts in there a little bit against Texas and Kansas City, but then bounced back, having to face Kansas City again right away. Did well against them. He's been pretty consistently good, and the Dodgers really haven't seen much of him. They're only 1 for 9 off him, and only 4 hitters on their team have ever faced him before, and he's had 4 strikeouts in that span, too, holding him to a 111 average and 222 OPS. So limited sample size, and that means the other hitters are unfamiliar with Bibby, so Bibby could have a little bit of an edge in that respect as well against the Dodgers. Then on the other side, Jack Flaherty is also having a really good season between Detroit and the Dodgers. 3.01 ERA, 1.04 whip. He's been consistently good basically all season, too, racking up a ton of strikeouts, 174 and 140 and 2/3 innings. Very good strikeout pitcher. But he is familiar to Cleveland, of course, because he was in Cleveland's division up until a couple months ago, basically, when he got traded or whenever it was. So Cleveland has definitely seen a lot of him. 84 at bats worth, but he has done pretty well against them, holding him to a 226 average and 667 OPS. So Jack Flaherty is the much more familiar pitcher to the opposing hitters there. So I also don't mind the Cleveland side in that one, really, for that reason. Bibby is the more unfamiliar pitcher in that one. But both starting pitchers are good enough that I think under is kind of the way I lean in that one. You do see some market signaling on the Cleveland side, though, with Dodgers down from minus 158 to minus 157, 88% of the tickets and 76% of the cash. So a public Dodger team with a little bit less of the cash on them. And then we do have 2 starters making their major league debuts, but it's not something I want to get involved in. And one of them is my Red Sox. This was the Alex Verdugo trade. The Red Sox got Richard Fitts, Dick Fitts. Great name right there, man. Yeah, we'll see if he does indeed fit into this rotation here. Richard Fitts. The Red Sox are down from minus 290 favorite to minus 255. They're trying to sweep the hapless White Sox here. Not very impressive, man, the Red Sox. I mean, you're supposed to sweep the White Sox. I don't know if they're going to be able to. 96% of tickets on the Red Sox. That's just how atrocious the White Sox are. And 100% of the cash. Chris Flexen, you got to consider him to be the worst of these 2 pitchers, even though he's up against a guy with no major league track record. Flexen struggles at the major league level. He doesn't have very good numbers against Boston either, historically. Fitts making his major league debut. He's shown some signs of being a decent pitcher. He can get his fastball. It's usually like mid-90s. Can kind of get into the upper 90s. He's got slider and changeup, basically. So both starting pitchers actually have the same type of arsenal, fastball, slider, changeup, and it seems like they do need a little bit of work on that off-speed stuff. Can it translate to the majors? Maybe. I looked at their minor league stats. Fitts, I mean, his stats are decent at the minors. We're talking about an ERA like in the 3s and in the 4s. He's been in AAA for a little bit this year. Decent strikeout rate for Fitts. So his numbers are okay. He has like a 1.2 whip, I think, in AAA this season with the Woo Sox at Worcester. But I'm not really sure. Yeah, the 1.2 whip is a little bit high for my liking. The ERA being in the fours, I think in the low fours. It's mediocre, but we'll see if it translates. I'm not saying he's necessarily going to be a bad major league pitcher. I mean, the Red Sox included him in that trade for a reason. So out of the two starters today, I think that he's probably the better one between him and Seth Johnson for Pittsburgh. Seth Johnson was, I believe, in the Baltimore organization for a bit, and he's making his major league debut today, but it's against a very weak Miami offense. So both major league debut starting pitchers here are getting to face weak offenses, with Fitz facing the White Sox and Johnson facing Miami. So they get a nice major league debut there with facing very weak hitting teams. So I do still think that both of those teams probably should win, and Philly lost to Miami yesterday, and they're battling for playoff positioning as well. So I think Philly's probably going to come motivated here. So I agree with the Philly side in this one. I'm just not sure how strong it really is. Johnson, his issue is he's been really wild at the minor league level. His walk numbers are really high, so I'm not sure I totally love that. He, like Fitz, has fastball, slider, changeup, and I think his fastball's a little bit harder than Fitz, can get up into like the higher 90s, but he's just wild enough that I don't know. But I think he does have good enough stuff and a good enough fastball that it can fool major league hitters, and especially Miami, who their offense is barely major league worthy. So we'll see what happens. And same goes for the White Sox. Philly is down from -135 to -127. Public, obviously, was 74% of the tickets because Philly's way better than Miami, but 97% of the cash. And like I said, I do agree with the Philly side there, just because you have this pitcher who's making his major league debut. These opposing hitters haven't seen him before, and they can struggle a little bit against pitchers they haven't seen before. Edward Cabrera on Miami, I mean, he does have good strikeout stuff, as I keep mentioning. He does have the talent to be a major league pitcher, but he just is way, way, way too wild. And his stats against Philadelphia historically are not good. They've seen him a decent amount because they're in the same division as him, and they've been able to get to him and hit him. So I do think the advantage lies with Philly in that one. And the odds makers are still telling you that's the case, with them being a road favorite. Yeah, Dick Fitz, that's right. Better slow game. Yeah, well, he does have a changeup, but I think he needs to improve that. He needs to improve his slow motion pitching game there. The one play I'm actually going to be on, though, is a total. It is an under, and it is in this Anaheim, Texas game. I'm going under 8.5 in Anaheim, Texas. Oh, man. In this game, we see some public action coming in on the over in this, to the tune of 89%, but only 72% of tickets on the over. I don't know how an over in an Anaheim game is really that public, because people know Anaheim is not really that good of an offensive team, but Texas is considered to be a pretty good hitting team, and it's in Texas, which is kind of a hitter's ballpark. But I like the starting pitching matchup for this. The total looks like it's gone up a little bit from 8.5 juice to the under to 8.5. Maybe because of the amount of public action that we have on this. But I still like the under in this one. The fact that it is a hitting park worries me a little bit, but Texas has not been hitting that well in this span at home here. I mean, they've had some decent offensive performances, but you see a lot of low run outputs from them in this span as well, especially recently here. Look at this. After they had that 10-run outburst against the Yankees, we got 3 runs scored, 1 run scored, and then yesterday they scored 6. But I think that was kind of a little bit misleading because a lot of it came in the late innings. So I don't know. Angels didn't use that much of their bullpen yesterday. Not that their bullpen is that good anyway. Texas did use a decent amount of their bullpen, including their best 2 relievers in Robertson and Yates. They didn't throw that many pitches, so I don't know if they're going to be totally unavailable today or not. It's not going to keep me away from the under, though. I'm just hoping we get a deep enough performance from Texas' starter here. I mean, you could potentially look at going under in first 5 innings in this one because it is somewhat reliant on the starting pitching matchup, but I'm just hoping we get deep enough performances from these starting pitchers. Anaheim is Caden Dana pitching, and he is one of their top prospects. He's only made 1 start, which was a start where I played the game. I think I played the under in that game and won on it. I mentioned him back then. He does have really good stuff. He's, I think, the top pitching prospect in the Angels organization. They decided to bring him up, see what he can do at the major league level, because their season is basically over. He was pitching pretty impressively in the minors, and he does have really good stuff. I think he has a 5-pitch arsenal, actually, if I remember correctly. I did not refresh my memory coming into this video, but I think he also can throw like into the upper 90s on his fastball as well. He had a pretty decent major league debut there against Seattle, only allowing 2 earned runs. They let him go 95 pitches, so that's a good sign. It shows me that Anaheim's willing to just unleash this guy basically right away, so I like that. He went 6 innings, so that shows me that they're letting him pitch as well. They're just letting him go out there and do his thing. The 4 walks is the only thing that's a bit concerning there, but maybe he was just a little bit nervous coming into his major league debut. Other than that, this was good, man. I mean, he was very difficult to hit, only allowing 2 hits. Not that Seattle's a very good offense, but 2 hits, 2 earned runs in 6 innings, 4 strikeouts. Not bad numbers there. So I like Caden Dana, and I think he could continue to pitch pretty well at this level. He is facing a better offense this time in Texas, but this is a Texas team that's also, they know that they're out of it. Both of these teams are out of it, so I don't know if they're going to be totally into it and totally focused on this. And if your hitters are not totally focused and they have to face this guy who probably will be focused because he's starting to pitch in the majors, so he'll still probably be pumped that he's getting his shot here. I think he's probably going to have the tendency to be more focused here. And then you got a potentially unfocused Texas lineup who's facing a guy who has good stuff for the first time, and they don't know what to expect out of him. So that could be an advantage to the pitcher there as well in Dana. So I like that. And then on the other side, I like the other side of this matchup too with Andrew Heaney. He's been one of the more consistent pitchers in Texas's rotation this year. 3.81 ERA, 1.22 WHIP, not bad numbers there. 141 to 38 strikeout walk ratio on the season is pretty good. 132 hits allowed and 139 to third innings pitch. All in all, pretty good stats across the entire season for Heaney. Good strikeout walk ratio, pretty decently high strikeout rate as well. And he's also consistent in that he does not allow that many earned runs per start when he goes out there. He allowed 6 earned runs twice against Houston. It was a very good hitting lineup. And St. Louis, I don't know what that was about. Anaheim is certainly not a strong lineup. And other than those 2 games, he's allowed 4 or fewer earned runs in all the rest of his starts. So he's been quite consistent. He was still pitching well in the month of August with a 3.24 ERA, 26 to 6 strikeout walk ratio in that month. Not bad. And that included some starts against some pretty good hitting teams right out of the gate here. Houston, Yankees, Minnesota. Didn't have the greatest starts in those 2 against Minnesota and the Yankees, but still didn't really allow that many earned runs in those starts. And then he faced the Yankees again in his most recent start and had a nice start in that one, not allowing any runs, although only going 5 innings. So his pitch count is a little bit low. He hasn't been going that deep into these games recently, so I'm hoping we get at least 5 out of him in this one. I mean, he is a veteran pitcher at this point. He's made a lot of starts in his career, so I think they're going to let him go as long as he's pitching well. They can get him into the 90s pitch count-wise, basically, and hope we get a deep enough performance out of him that enough of their bullpen is saved, which I don't think is that much of an ask against a weak Anaheim offense. Not all of Anaheim's offense has even actually seen him before, so it is a limited sample size, but the guys who have seen him before haven't done well against him. 23 at-bats, 217 batting average, and 715 OPS, because there is that 1 home run in there from Nito. I don't even know how you pronounce his name, but Heaney overall, I mean, that's a pretty good low batting average that he's held Anaheim's hitters to, and some of their hitters have never even seen him before. So I do like the starting pitching matchup in this one as being conducive to the under. The total seems about like where it should be. I mean, I'd rather get under 9 on this one because 9's a key number, but what can you do? It's 8.5, probably for a reason. Texas can hit, and it is a hitter's ballpark, but Anaheim, weak offense, and I like the starting pitching matchup for the under in this one. And I think you can get a little bit of value on a starting pitching matchup like this where Heaney kind of flies under the radar a bit, and he's not really one of those name pitchers. And then Caden Dana, nobody knows who the hell he is, so I think you can get some value there because he's better than who people think. He's better than what people think because people don't even know who he is. So he's not just some no-name guy. He's one of their top prospects in that Angels organization. So that's going to do it for me, man. Now, you can go check out my NFL video because it's NFL Sunday. That is up on the channel. I streamed it late last night. Had 6 live viewers or something like that. So thanks to JC and Nancy who were in the chat there talking to me late. Go check that video out if you want to see my breakdowns on these NFL games before they start in an hour and a half or so. I'm Toad, as always, Tower Gang Toad. Check out the Tower Gang podcast, Wednesday nights, 9-11 p.m. Eastern, the most offensive comedy podcast on the planet, of course. Throw us some support at the Patreon, patreon.com/TowerGangPod, I believe is what it is. And you get bonus Tower Gang material, the pre-shows, the post-shows, which is just extra content pretty much. And you get to hang out with us in a Telegram, even though their CEO has been fired or whatever. So your chats over there are probably not a secret anymore. But that's going to do it for me, man. Have a good day. Let's have a good first NFL Sunday here. I only actually have 2 plays across baseball and NFL today, but hopefully it goes well. Peace.